Have you ever felt something behind your eyes? Not a headache, not strain, but pressure, like something alive is pushing forward, trying to look out through you. Elara was a doctor, brilliant, logical, grounded in science. But now, she sees teeth in her own reflection, and they're not hers. This isn't just her descent into madness. It's a slow unraveling of everything we trust about ourselves, our minds, our sight, our identity. Part 1. Something behind my eyes. My name is Dr. Elara Voss. I'm 32 years old, ophthalmologist, board certified. I've performed over 400 corneal transplants, countless LASIK procedures, and more retinal detachment repairs than I care to count. I tell you that because I want you to understand. I know eyes. I know what they're supposed to look like, how they're supposed to work, how they're supposed to feel. And I know something is very wrong behind mine. It started about 3 months ago. A pressure, not pain, not yet. Just an odd fullness behind my eyes, like someone had injected saline into the space between the optic nerve and skull. I figured it was fatigue. I was working long shifts, back-to-back consultations, emergency procedures. It made sense. Doctors are the worst at treating themselves. We rationalize, we dismiss, but that pressure, it didn't go away. It grew. The first migraine hit 2 weeks after the sensation began. It wasn't a normal headache. It was sudden, stabbing, right between my eyebrows. My vision blurred around the edges, like a camera lens trying and failing to focus. And there were halos. Not the kind caused by corneal swelling. These were moving halos, fluttering, shifting, faintly glowing rings that clung to any source of light. I prescribed myself a break. I even took a few days off, stayed in, slept, hydrated. But the symptoms, they didn't rest. If anything, they got worse. I remember waking up one night, sitting straight up in bed, hand clutching my forehead, eyes wide open. Because I felt it. Not pain, not pressure. Movement, like something twitching behind the orbs. A muscle spasm that didn't belong to me. Looked in the mirror that morning, and for the first time, I didn't recognize myself. Not because my face was unfamiliar, but because my eyes looked off, dilated too wide, too still, like they were staring at something inside me. I started seeing flickers next, little slivers of shadow in the periphery, always just out of reach, like the silhouette of a hand, a finger, moving quickly and retreating just as fast. At first, I assumed visual migraines, maybe ocular seizures, but it never aligned with anything clinical. No retinal scarring, no detachment, no hemorrhaging, no logical reason for the flickers. One night, while charting patient notes at home, I caught one of the shadows head on. It wasn't peripheral that time. It darted across the corner of my desk, a fast, darting shadow about the size of a rat, but darker, like a void that swallowed light. I jumped, knocked over my coffee, but when I looked around, nothing. No evidence it had ever been there. I started questioning myself. I checked for sleep disorders. I took melatonin, then stronger stuff. I meditated. I detoxed. I even saw a neurologist colleague and lied about the severity of the symptoms. He found nothing. No tumors, no inflammation, no nerve compression. But the flickers got bolder. They began appearing during surgery. Mid-lens replacement, I'd see. A faint shiver in the background. It was always gone before I could look up. Then the lights became unbearable. Overhead, fluorescence started humming louder than I remembered. I replaced bulbs at home with soft yellow LEDs, but even those hurt. It wasn't the brightness. It was something behind the light, like my eyes weren't just seeing anymore. They were translating, and not well. Then came the noise. It started one night while I was brushing my teeth. I leaned forward over the sink, stared into the mirror. I wasn't looking at my face. I was studying my pupils, They weren't reacting properly. Lagging behind, stimulus, contracting too slowly, staying too wide for too long, and then I heard it. Click, soft, wet, faint, but distinct, like a tiny jaw closing around a wet piece of fruit. Click, click, click. I froze, turned off the faucet, stood completely still. It wasn't coming from outside, not the pipes, not the walls. It was inside me. A quiet, rhythmic chewing. Sound coming from behind my eyes. I pressed my palms against them, hard, held them there. I remember whispering to myself, "Stop, please, just stop." But it didn't. It kept clicking, steady, like it had found a rhythm, like it had been waiting for me to notice. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room, all the lights off, sunglasses on, just listening, waiting for it to start again. And eventually, it did. Soft, persistent, chewing in the dark, not with hunger, but patience. Like whatever was behind my eyes was still growing, still waiting, still watching. Part 2. When the world starts to flicker, I used to trust what I saw. That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Trust. Vision. The illusion of certainty and perception. When the world started to flicker, I thought it was the lights, faulty wiring, old fixtures, too much screen time. But it wasn't the lights. It was people. I remember the first time it happened in the clinic. A man, mid-40s, came in for a routine check. Nothing remarkable. He had a slight astigmatism, nothing out of the ordinary. But when I looked up from his chart, something was off. His face was clear, his voice was normal, but his eyes, they were wrong. Too wide, too open. Like he wasn't blinking enough. Like someone had told him to imitate human expression and forgot to mention the importance of blinking. When he turned his head, it moved too fast. Just a flicker, like a skipped frame in a video. I blinked, shook it off. My head was buzzing from lack of sleep. I told myself that. But then it kept happening. Another patient, an elderly woman with macular degeneration. Her mouth moved in real time, but her eyes darted seconds too early. Like she was anticipating my words before I even spoke them. Light. Bulbs began to hum. Not the low, warm hum of incandescence. No, this was high-pitched, needling, like a dog whistle vibrating between my teeth. Every fluorescent light seemed to whine directly into my skull. It didn't stop when I left the room. It followed me. At night, I stopped sleeping. I'd lie in bed, eyes wide open, blinking constantly, trying to test my reflexes, watching the ceiling flicker. Sometimes it shimmered like heat waves. Other times, it bulged, as if something was pushing against it from the other side. I started documenting everything. At first, it was methodical. Timestamps, symptom logs, sketches of what I was seeing. Then came the recordings. I set up a camera in my office, another one in my apartment, just in case I caught something, some glitch, some anomaly. I filled 3 notebooks in 5 days. I told myself I was developing a neurological condition. Maybe occipital lobe seizures, maybe early onset. Something, tumors, infections, parasites, anything to make sense of what I was experiencing. I ordered an MRI, twice. No abnormalities, no inflammation, perfectly clean scans. I sat in my car for an hour after the second test, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles cracked, because I wanted something to be wrong, something I could name. Because if there's no diagnosis, then what's happening is real. That night, I tried something different. I sat directly in front of the camera. Bright ring light, clean background. I wanted to study my eyes. I wanted to catch what I'd been feeling, whatever was shifting behind them, whatever had been clicking. I stared into the lens for 17 minutes, didn't move, didn't speak, just blinked and waited. When I reviewed the footage, it looked normal at first. I scrubbed back and forth, frame by frame, nothing, until one frame. exactly 12 minutes and 41 seconds in. The light shifted slightly. The shadows inside my pupils twisted, and then I saw them. Rows, tiny, glistening teeth behind the irises. Not part of the eye, inside it. Jagged, translucent, needle-like teeth lining the edge of the black, like a second mouth had opened behind the lens of my soul. I paused the frame, zoomed in, zoomed again. It stayed sharp. They didn't vanish. I could count them. 32, 16 per eye. They looked wet, hungry. And I looked calm, staring directly into the lens, like nothing was wrong, like I knew they were there and had accepted it. I deleted the footage, without breathing, without thinking. Dragged to trash, empty bin, gone. Then I just sat there, frozen, hand over my mouth, not because I was afraid of what I saw, but because I wasn't surprised. I whispered it out loud before I even realized I was speaking. They were real. It wasn't a question, not a theory, not a hallucination or a trick of light or a corruption in the file. They were real. I stared into a mirror later that night, tried to see them again. I didn't, but I felt them, moving. They'd been hiding, waiting, and I had caught them off guard. I think they didn't like that. The next day, the flickering started again. Stronger this time. More than just people now. The world itself. Walls, furniture, reflections, stuttered, like the fabric of reality was buffering. And when I turned too quickly, I swore I saw something like a form standing right behind me. Not a person. Not exactly. It was tall, thin. Its eyes were too far apart. And its mouth stretched from cheekbone to cheekbone, filled with the same needle-like teeth I saw in myself, turned. Nothing there. But the afterimage lingered, like a burn in my vision. I closed my eyes, rubbed them hard, and the clicking started again. Faster this time, more urgent. Click. Click, 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 click. It wasn't behind my eyes anymore. It was inside my skull. They weren't just growing, they were waking up. Part 3. I see too much. I wear sunglasses indoors now. I tell people it's photophobia, light sensitivity. It's not a lie, not exactly. The lights do hurt, but it's more than that. I wear them so I don't have to see what's not supposed to be there. Because lately I see too much. It's not just flickers anymore, not shadows in the corner or glints of light where they shouldn't be. It's detail, impossible detail. I look at someone's face and I can see their pores dilating. I can see capillaries throbbing beneath the skin. I can see the tremor of their pulse in the whites of their eyes. And it's not just visual. It's like I'm perceiving something beneath the surface. Like my vision is peeling people open. I avoid eye contact now, not just because of what I might see, but because they're starting to look back. Some people stare too long. They hold their gaze a second past comfort, like they know. Others, strangers, patients, even friends, can't look at me at all. They flinch, they glance, and then immediately look away, as if they've seen something they wish they hadn't. It's like they're not seeing me anymore. They're seeing what's looking out from behind my eyes, and I'm starting to feel it too. That pressure again. Not like before. This is sharper. It pulses, almost like something is turning inside the sockets, adjusting, repositioning itself. Last Tuesday, I was performing a simple retinal tear repair. I'd done the procedure dozens of times, hands steady, movements automatic, but then, mid-procedure, my vision twitched. That's the only word I have for it. It was like a camera glitch. Everything paused for a millisecond. And in that frozen sliver of time, I saw, not the patient, not her retina, but the inside of her, skull, bone, veins, and something else, something moving. It was wrapped around the optic nerve, coiled like a snake. It writhed when I looked at it, as if it felt me seeing it. I dropped the forceps, pulled away, blinded by light. I remember the scrub nurse calling my name. Her voice sounded distant, distorted, like it was underwater. I ripped off my gloves, left the room, didn't explain, didn't go back. I sat in my office for hours after that. Door locked, lights off. I pressed my palms to my eyes until I saw color bursts, reds, blues, greens. But even in the dark, behind the closed lids, I could still see them. The things that weren't supposed to be there. I started digging, not online. Too visible, too noisy. I went into the archives, old medical journals, discarded notes from eccentric researchers, the kind of studies that never get peer-reviewed, the ones that get laughed out of conferences. And I found something, a yellowed, water-stained article in the back of a discontinued journal. No abstract, no institutional affiliation, just a title, scrawled in narrow, shaky print, ocular symbiosis and peripheral cognition. Most of it was rambling, disjointed observations, drawings of cross-sections, half anatomical, half nightmarish. But there were moments of clarity. It described cases, rare, undocumented, of individuals who developed secondary visual systems, not mechanical, not neural, biological, foreign organisms, nesting behind the retina, integrating with the optic nerve. They fed on perception, not blood, not tissue. They fed on what we see, on how we interpret what's real. There was one word repeated, over and over, in the margins. Incubation, and next to it, in red ink, don't look too long. I think I'm infected. No, I know I am. I don't know how. I don't know when. But whatever this is, it's inside me now, feeding, changing me. I've started hearing the clicking again, more frequent, sometimes in rhythm with my pulse, click, 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 click. But now, I think I'm clicking back. Sometimes, I wake up with my teeth clenched so tight my jaw won't open. And when I do open it, I swear I hear something unhinge in my eyes, something stretching. I avoid mirrors now, not out of fear, out of respect, because I think whatever's growing in there is learning, it's evolving, and I can't help but wonder, when I look into my reflection and it looks back, which of us is blinking? Part 4, the teeth are growing. I don't know how much longer I can pretend to be me. Every morning I wake up hoping this will stop, that I'll look in the mirror and just be tired, just be stressed, just be sick, but it's not stopping, it's growing. The pressure behind my eyes is unbearable now. It pulses like something alive, something coiled and stretching, desperate to burst forward. When I touch my face, I can feel heat radiating from the sockets, like my eyes are hatching something. I tried to look away, to ignore it. But last night, I couldn't anymore. I stood in front of the mirror and stared until my vision blurred, until the muscles in my face locked up from holding still. And just when I thought nothing would happen, my sclera, the whites of my eyes, twitched. They didn't just move, they throbbed. I saw veins pushing to the surface, pulsing in sync with my heartbeat. Then, something else. I brought out a surgical magnifying lens I'd stolen from the clinic, lit my face with cold LED, and leaned in, tiny white ridges, no longer imagined, no longer figments in a twitch of light or shadow, teeth, rows of them, just beneath the surface of the sclera, pushing forward like seedlings in soft soil. Not molars, not human, needle-like. Curved slightly inward, like fish hooks. Not meant for chewing, meant for holding on. They moved when I blinked, retracted slightly when I squinted, as if reacting to muscle movement, responding like muscles of their own. I dropped the lens, stepped away, and that's when I realized The clicking hadn't stopped in days. It's no longer occasional, no longer tied to sleep or silence. It's constant. A background rhythm to my every thought. Click, 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 click. It's inside the walls of my head, like a chorus of tiny mandibles chittering just beneath the bone, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Sometimes I think it's answering something. Sometimes I think I'm the one who started the conversation. When I close my eyes, I don't see darkness anymore. There's motion, like waves, like static, like 1,000 shifting outlines, dancing just beyond the threshold of perception. At first, I thought it was my imagination, a hallucination. But then I noticed something impossible. The shapes behind, my eyelids. They match things I see later. A crack in the sidewalk, a stranger's face on the train, a pattern in a curtain. I see them before I see them. They're showing me the world before I reach it. As if they're ahead of me, watching first, and now the world looks flat, as if I'm seeing a photograph of reality, a well-rendered simulation, not being in it, just watching it happen around me. The depth is gone. The air doesn't feel like it touches my skin. Voices sound rehearsed. When I speak to people now, it's like listening to an audio track dubbed onto footage. It doesn't match. I've stopped going out, stopped eating real meals. My apartment has become a nest. Stacks of research papers, crumbs and wrappers layered over each other like sedimentary rock. Takeout boxes I forgot to open, some with mold patterns that look too intentional, spirals, grids, shapes I've seen behind my eyes. I've blacked out the windows with garbage bags and duct tape. I've unplugged the fridge. It's humming pitched too close to the clicking. Don't sleep in my bed anymore. I sit upright in a chair, camera recording. I record myself every night now. I was afraid I might sleepwalk or hurt myself, or worse, do something and forget. But what I caught, that wasn't me. The first night, I saw my body shift in the chair, slowly, rhythmically, like breathing, except my chest wasn't rising. Then, the whispering started. It was my voice, but not my tone. Raspy, measured, too calm. It whispered, in a language I don't know. The syllables were sharp, wet. Sometimes it paused, like it was listening to something else speak back. I checked my pulse in the footage. My body never moved. But my eyes were open, staring directly at the lens and the whites. They weren't white anymore. They were pale grey, ribbed. You could see the outlines of movement beneath them, like something pacing behind a curtain. I deleted the recording. Then I recorded the next night, and the next, and the next. It keeps happening. The whispers are growing longer. The teeth are getting clearer. I hear them now, even without the footage. When I close my eyes, when I open them, it's all the same. There's no longer a difference between what's inside and what's out. I'm not even sure if I'm speaking to you anymore, or if they are. Sometimes, when I'm still, when I hold my breath just right, I can feel them watching. Not through me, from within. They're learning to see, and soon, they won't need me to blink anymore. Part 5. They're looking through me. I left the apartment today. I don't know why. Maybe something made me. Maybe something else wanted to see. It wasn't morning or night. I don't remember light. I remember sound, too sharp. Smells that were wrong. The moment I stepped outside, people stopped. Not subtly, not with curiosity. They froze, like deer catching the scent of something ancient in the wind. One man dropped his coffee. A woman screamed, not with her mouth, but with her eyes. She backed away so fast she fell. Didn't even get up, just crawled, like getting further from me was more important than dignity. I tried to say something. I think I did. I reached out my hand to help her, but when she looked into my face, she didn't scream. She sobbed, mouth open. No sound, just the wide, wet look of a person who's seen something unseeable. And that's when I saw my reflection. In a parked car's window, bent metal, dirty glass. Not a real mirror, something worse, something honest. My face wasn't my face. It was there, but warped. Like the light didn't know how to wrap around it anymore. The edges flickered. The pupils weren't round. They weren't even eyes anymore. They were lenses, dark, empty, and wide, far too wide. There was something behind them, something pressed against the other side of the glass, trying to get a better view. They're looking through me. I'm not the host. I'm not even the subject anymore. I'm the vessel, a container, a window frame with a human shape. I staggered through alleys, under flickering signs, past people who wouldn't look at me. Those who did, they changed. A man on the corner grinned until his lips bled. A boy dropped his lollipop and muttered in a voice like cracked radio static. No one followed me, but they knew. I made it back to my apartment. I locked the door, not that it would help. I sat on the floor and stared at the wall until the plaster moved. Not metaphorically. It rippled, like a reflection on water. And for just a second, it wasn't a wall anymore. It was a city, but not here, not Earth. I saw towers, shifting, breathing. They changed shape every few seconds like lungs learning to exhale. Bridges made of webbed glass stretched between them, carrying silhouettes with too many joints. Above them, sky, but not blue, black, teeth, not stars. Teeth, floating, watching. I blinked, and it was gone. Or maybe I was gone. It's hard to tell the difference now, because my thoughts aren't mine anymore. They come from behind, from the back of my skull, where it itches. I'll start a sentence, and finish it in a language I don't know. I'll ask myself a question and get an answer I never wanted. There's no privacy in here. I am open, split down the middle, like a window pried apart. They're in my head, and I don't mean metaphorically. They're broadcasting through me. I caught myself whispering last night, sitting in the kitchen, eyes wide open, speaking to the shadows on the ceiling. Not my words, not my cadence. I think they were asking for coordinates, for measurements, like I'm a sensor, like my eyeballs, or antennas. I read something once, years ago, an obscure article, lost in a pile of pseudoscience. It talked about watchers, ancient symbiotes, not parasites, not even creatures, observers, entities that ride the vision of intelligent species, not to harm them, not to kill, to see through them, to map our world, to understand, to prepare. It made sense then, and now it's not theory. Now it's biology. Because I'm not behind my eyes anymore. I'm behind theirs. My consciousness is tucked away, curled up like a dying spider in the back of their optical chamber. And I tried. God, I tried. I went to the bathroom, took the scalpel I'd hidden in the drawer, held it in front of the mirror. I looked myself dead in the face. I said, "You're not real." I raised the blade, but my arm stopped, mid-air. It didn't tremble, it didn't waver. It just froze. My fingers locked. I pulled with everything I had, but something held me, inside me, like a vice, like puppet strings. I dropped the blade. It clattered to the tile, bounced once, and settled with the blade pointed toward me, as if to say, "Nice, try. I don't control this body anymore. I'm a passenger now, a conscious retina, trapped behind the glass dome of another thing's perception. They're growing stronger. The teeth in my eyes aren't just for show. They're a grip. They're anchoring. They're embedding into me. Every blink is no longer mine. Every moment of sight, every glance is theirs. They're not watching through me anymore. They're watching as me, and whatever they're watching for, it's getting closer. Part 6. You're seeing this because they let you. Do you hear it? That sound beneath the silence. The way light has a hum. How stillness is never truly still. You don't notice it at first. You live in the rhythm of your body. Heartbeat, breath, thought. But when you stop, when everything else falls away, you feel it. Like a slow turning behind the curtain of your soul. I feel it always now. Every molecule vibrating, every atom. Alive. Intentional. The world isn't what I thought. It isn't cold. It isn't indifferent. It's watched, observed, measured in detail so fine it slips between the cracks of science and dream. They showed me. They opened me. The teeth behind my eyes have finished growing. When I look in the mirror now, I don't flinch. There's no need to scream. No need to recoil. My pupils are a ring of white enamel. Tiny, jagged points. Endlessly chewing in perfect rhythm. Chewing reality. Chewing perception. You'd think it would hurt. That I'd feel torn or hollowed. But no. It's beautiful. With them fully formed, I see everything for what it truly is. Not filtered through the meat and nerves of human anatomy. I see the texture of time. The folds in light. The shuddering between moments. I see every glance as a blade, every eye contact as a handshake between planes. I see them, fully now. There, shapes too vast to describe, not monsters, not gods observers, not even here to act, only to witness, to document, to understand. They've been with us since we first looked up at the stars, since the first creatures squinted against sunlight. We were never meant to see for ourselves. We were meant to be seen through. Our eyes are the gateway, the lens, the aperture. You want to know something cruel? Most people, they never make it this far. The process takes years, sometimes decades, but the human body fails before the teeth ever finish forming, before the consciousness can be shifted. We die with larvae behind our eyes, unrealized, unbloomed. But me, I lived long enough. I lasted. I hosted. I became. And now, I'm part of them, no longer behind the glass. I am the glass. I'm no longer a window. I'm a camera, a living, chewing, breathing lens trained on everything you think is private. You want to know how you're hearing this, how these words made it to your ears. You think I recorded them? Think I uploaded some confession? No, you're seeing this because they let you, because you're next. That itch behind your eyes, that flicker you ignore at the corner of your vision, that shadow that doesn't move when you do, that's them. The chewing has already begun. They're slow at first, subtle. You'll see light shimmer wrong just once. You'll catch your reflection blinking when you didn't. And then you'll know that your eyes are not your own, that you were never alone in your skull. Not really. They're gentle at first. They like to watch quietly. But eventually, they'll want more. They'll shift the lens, sharpen the focus, crack the aperture wider, and when they're ready, they'll let you see them. You'll feel them watching. Not from above, but within. And if you're very unlucky, you'll last long enough for the teeth to grow. Long enough to stop blinking. Long enough to understand. So listen closely, because this is not a warning. Not a plea. It's a mirror, and you're already looking into it. If you're hearing this, they've begun to look through you too. You're part of the aperture now. So do one thing for me. One last simple thing. Try not to blink. You've just seen what lurks behind the eyes. A world darker than you ever imagined. If you felt that chill, that creeping unease, know you're not alone. There are more stories waiting here, whispers, shadows, and echoes that reach into the night. If you want to uncover them, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss the next haunting tale. And remember, sometimes it's what you don't see that's watching you. Until next time, keep your eyes open, but try not to blink.